Senator Reid's office. Just wanted to take a quick moment to say that that documentary was great. Just quick bit, because I know everybody wants to say something. The Senator has committed to comprehensive immigration reform. He's passionate about the DREAM Act. He has been vocal about it. He just spoke about it at the RIFA rally that occurred on Saturday. And he continues to remain committed to passing a comprehensive immigration reform that includes the DREAM Act.
Can we ask all of you to speak a little louder because the people in the back can't hear you?
Okay, my name is Juanito Espinosa Cuella. I am the national co-chair of the Chicano and Chicana student movement of Upsilon. I'm also the chair, the vice chair of the co-caucus at the National Association of Chicana and Chicana Studies, and the co-chair of the student caucus at the National Association of Chicana and Chicana Studies. I'm also a writer and an activist. I'm American. I think that the video shows a lot of what undocumented students go through. However, what worries me and what troubles me is the whole idea of assimilation. You know, that you need to be one of us, or you need to act like them in order to be accepted. That somehow, you know, as long as you are acceptable, as long as you speak like us, eat like us, like what we like, then you should have a status here in this country. I think that's highly problematic, and I think that we need to move beyond this conformity, conformity, no? That we need to start being more critical and looking at the root of what is it that allows a country, a whole system, to dehumanize from 12 to 20 million of people. What is it that allows the displacement of 200 million people around the globe? You know, we really need to start looking at the root of these things. Otherwise, immigration reform and even the DREAM Act is like an aspirin to cure cancer.
In sociology. I study immigration and deviance together. You saw at the beginning of the film there were the anti-immigrant groups. That's who I study. The people who kind of oppose what the DREAM Act is and opposes people based on a status. I'm also an international student, so I know the value of papers. Without my papers, I wouldn't be able to be here today. And so I can understand what they go through, because I don't think I would be able to be as strong as the students who are shown here, especially considering these are young students who, you know, this is all they've known. And I'm a true believer that if immigration reform is to work, no wall is going to fix it, no border patrol is going to fix it, that immigration reform has to start with good, strong policy with people in mind and not a status in mind. That it has to be people-oriented, and as soon as we fix that, and I think this movie kind of really picks up on that it's people-focused, and that's really where our thoughts and policy has to be.
You know, it's in my career, on a daily basis it seems, almost, I see stories like this every day, and it is sometimes heartbreaking. My first knee-jerk reaction when I saw this, it made me think of one of the first cases, a family that I had here in Las Vegas, and let me walk you through it a little bit. This is a family who, the kids only discovered that they had immigration problems when it was an older daughter. She got picked up by Metro. She had gotten into a gang, got into some problems, ended up in the crosshairs of ICE, and I had to go meet with her for the first time because the mother and the fathers, they had no documents either. They couldn't go into the jail. They were afraid to walk in. So they hired me to do the job for them, to sit down with their daughter and say, I'm sorry, you know, you're going home. I can't do anything for you. And then the next thing that I had to do was in my office, the parents brought the son, who was at the time, I think, a senior in high school. You know, he didn't know what was happening to older sister. They had to bring him into my office, and I had to be the one to explain to the son for the first time, you don't have papers. I don't know what's going to happen to you. And the son was on the verge of, I think he was like a straight A student, and he was doing very well in high school, had these dreams of going on in the profession, and all of a sudden, here's an attorney, a stranger, to him saying, oh, by the way, you're not going any farther than high school. Somehow or other, because of the time period that he came into the United States, when things were a little bit more lenient, this particular kid had a social security number. So he was lucky to go on into here, UNLV. He graduated from the nursing program here. I think that he was, I don't know if he was cum laude here, very high up in the graduating class. And it's only because of, you know, we figured things out for him. We were able to get him an employer, and it took a lot of finagling that eventually this kid was lucky enough to actually get his papers, you know, based upon being sponsored by an employer, after living the dream, working as hard as he could, getting up to that point. Again, if I knew what this movie is about, I would have loved to have brought him here so that he could meet with you. And the family is now clinging to him because he's their one chance at hopefully not only he got his papers, but eventually getting his citizenship, and then eventually anchoring the rest of the family back here, except for his older sister. But you know, that was just you know, one of the first things that I thought of when I saw this story. And again, that's one example of how things turned out well. But for every story that I've seen where it turned out well, I met with maybe 10 other students who I, you know, had the very tough job of telling them there's nothing I can do now. So this brings me to my other thing, I guess, my other knee-jerk reaction. About 3 weeks ago, I went the end of March over to Washington, D.C. It was the same week as the big march that they had over there on comprehensive immigration reform. Later that week, I traveled to Washington, D.C. to meet with all of our politicians and their offices. And, you know, the funny thing is, comprehensive immigration reform, some politicians are reluctant to talk about it. But when you mention DREAM Act alone, by itself, I don't think I've heard one politician say that it doesn't make sense. I don't think that there are any politicians who say that they wouldn't want to support it. But the thing about the DREAM Act is the fact that because of the political capital that it's going to take anybody to pass something like the DREAM Act, they all at least figure that if they're going to go that far, they may as well go all the way and try for comprehensive immigration reform. Is this a realistic strategy? I don't know. But it's something that at least we should think about.